If you have walked every morning for 6 months and your belly has not moved, this is not a discipline problem. It is a location problem. The fat that decides your health sits behind the muscle wall, wrapped around your liver and intestines. 2 years ago, my waist measured 38.5 inches. 60 days later, it measured 34. Same body, same bones. The drawer packed around my liver had emptied. The soft fat under my skin barely changed. 0 never meant 0 fat. You need some. 0 meant the inches I carried above the line that predicts disease. Journal of the American College of Cardiology, 2013, the Framingham Heart Study. Visceral fat was associated with incident cardiovascular disease and cancer after adjustment for clinical risk factors. 3,000 adults scanned, then followed for 5 years. Each step up in deep fat came with about 40% higher odds of a heart event. Follow the blood leaving your gut. It does not reach the heart first. It runs straight into the liver, carrying whatever the deep fat around it releases. The fat you can pinch drains into general circulation. The deep fat drains into your liver first. Same fat, 2 addresses, 2 very different bills. Same journal, 2022. Mayo Clinic cut 12 healthy adults down to 4 hours of sleep for 14 straight days inside a lab with free access to food. Their total body fat barely moved. Their deep belly fat went up. 2 weeks of short nights and the drawer filled while the mirror said nothing. This is why your scale is blind. It weighs the whole body at once. It cannot tell the fat on your hips from the fat pressed against your liver and looped through your intestines. 60 days, 1 tape measure, 5 levers in a fixed order. That is what the next half hour gives you. 0 was never 0 fat. 0 was the excess. There is a line. 2 years ago, I was above it. 60 days later, I was under it. That is the whole claim. No cure. No promise about your body. A line, a number, and 5 moves in a fixed order. I am not going to tell you that you will look 20 years younger, because you will not, and neither did I. What changed was the part of me that nobody could see, and it changed faster than anything I could see. Picture your belly as 2 storage places instead of 1. The first is a coat pocket. It is the soft layer you can grab between your fingers, sitting right under the skin. It is visible, it is annoying, and it is mostly harmless. The second is a drawer. It sits deep behind the wall of muscle, packed into the spaces between your organs. You cannot pinch it. You cannot see it in a mirror. You cannot feel it. Almost everything you have ever been told about belly fat was written about the pocket. This entire video is about the drawer. You already know the pocket. It is the roll that folds over your belt when you sit down at the kitchen table. The drawer gives you nothing to look at. It shows up as a waistband that stopped closing, a shirt button you quietly stopped using, and a doctor who suddenly starts asking about your blood sugar at every single visit. Same weight as last year, he says, looking at the screen instead of at you. Same weight as last year, and a different conversation. Go past the skin, past that soft layer, and you hit a sheet of muscle. Behind the muscle sit the intestines, folded on themselves with the liver above them on the right. In a lean body, those organs almost touch. In a body with a full drawer, a thick pad of fat is wedged between every loop of gut and wrapped around the liver, pressing the belly wall outward from the inside. None of that pad shows on the surface. It does all of its work behind the muscle, packed tight against the organs it was never meant to touch. The pocket sits on you. The drawer sits in you. One decides how your shirt fits. The other decides what your liver does every hour of every day. Same 3 words, belly fat. 2 completely different problems, 2 completely different futures, and only one of them ever showed up in the advice you were given. Pinch the pocket. Go ahead. Right now, sitting there. Whatever comes away between your fingers is the part of your belly that was never the problem. The part that is the problem does not come away from anything. Here is why the address matters so much. Fat is not a sealed bag. It is a live tissue that leaks fuel and chemical messages into whatever blood is passing through it. The pocket empties into blood that goes everywhere, watered down along the way. The drawer empties into a thick vein that runs from your intestines straight into your liver. So the liver takes the full dose, first, all day long. That is the entire difference in one sentence. The deep fat has a private line to the organ that sets your blood sugar and your blood fats. This is why two men can weigh exactly the same, wear the same shirt size, eat lunch at the same table, and get two completely different blood results back a week later. One is carrying his fat in the pocket, the other is carrying it in the drawer. Neither of them can tell by looking in a mirror, and neither could tell you which one he is. Your scale weighs you. It does not locate you. Weight tells you how much. It never tells you where. And where is the part that decides whether you are a man with a soft belly or a man with a problem? For 30 years, the whole industry sold you how much, because how much is cheap to measure and easy to put on a poster. Obesity Reviews, 2016. 117 trials, nearly 5,000 people. Despite a larger effect of diet on total body weight loss, exercise tends to have superior effects. Here is the number that should have ended the argument years ago. When people trained but did not lose weight, their deep fat still fell by 6.1%. When people dieted and did not lose weight, it barely moved, 1.1%. Same scale reading in both groups. The bathroom floor said nothing happened. The scan said something absolutely did. Same weight, different insides. Read that again slowly. The number you have been chasing since your 40s cannot see the fat that matters. It never could. Nobody told you. Because a bathroom scale costs $20 and a scan costs $600, and only one of those two numbers is easy to sell. So an entire industry grew up around the cheap number. Millions of people stood on that cheap number every morning for 30 years and drew conclusions from it about a compartment it has never once been able to reach. So you walk 40 minutes most mornings in the same park, past the same bench, for 6 months. The scale gives you back 1 pound and a shrug. You decide it did not work, and you stop. It did work. It worked in a place your bathroom floor has never once been able to measure. 6 months of mornings, thrown away because of a machine that was answering a different question than the one you were asking it. Watch what a brisk walk does inside you. The big muscles in your legs start pulling sugar out of the blood without waiting to be asked. The heart pushes more blood through the gut. And the fat wedged between those loops of intestine begins releasing its stores into that same blood on its way to the liver. That is the drawer being unpacked, one walk at a time, while the skin over it looks exactly the same as yesterday. And here is the part nobody puts in a headline. The drawer is not the last place your body gives up. It is one of the first. Deep fat is metabolically busy. It fills fast when the signals are wrong, and it empties fast when the signals are right. That is why 60 days is a real timeline for the inside of your belly, and a fantasy for the fat on the back of your arms. Annals of Internal Medicine, the year 2000. 52 obese men, 3 months. Weight loss induced by increased daily physical activity without caloric restriction substantially reduces abdominal obesity. 52 men, 3 months. The group that exercised every day, without deliberately cutting a single calorie, lost about 7.5 kilos, roughly 16 pounds, and the deep fat came down with it. 3 months, not 3 years. And the honest limit, these were men in their 40s, not people in their 70s. 60 days is not a marketing number. It is roughly how long the drawer takes to answer once you stop refilling it every single night. That is the promise of this video, and it is the only promise in it. Not a new body, not a new face, a narrower waist, measured from the inside. I was 62 when I started. Bad knees, blood pressure pills in the kitchen drawer next to the reading glasses. I did not run. I did not join anything. I did not buy a machine. I walked, I slept, and I changed 4 things about what went into a glass and onto a plate. I ended up calling it the deep drawer method because that is exactly what it empties. 5 levers, 60 days, 1 piece of string, no equipment, no membership, and nothing you have to learn twice. So here is the deal for the next 20 minutes. I am going to give you the deep drawer method in full, 5 levers, in order, with the exact numbers I used before this video ends. Not a summary. The whole thing. But if I hand you 5 instructions right now, you will do 3 of them for 11 days and quit, which is exactly what I did the first time around. So first I have to show you what fills the drawer, because 4 of those 5 levers are about closing a tap you did not know was open. 4 taps. That is really all this is. Your nights. The sugar you drink instead of chew. The hours your kitchen stays open. And how long you sit still between meals. Every one of them fills the drawer for weeks without moving the scale by a single pound, which is precisely why you never caught them. Here is the piece of the chain you can point at. Food leaves your stomach, moves along the small intestine, and the sugar in it crosses the wall into the blood. That blood goes to the liver first. When the drawer packed around that liver is full, the liver keeps pushing sugar out into the blood anyway, even at 3 in the morning, when nothing at all is coming in. That is the fasting number your doctor circles on the page. Their stated conclusion: weight gain and particularly central accumulation of fat indicate that sleep loss predisposes to abdominal visceral obesity, not just to a bigger number on the scale. 12 people. 21 days locked in a lab. 14 of those nights cut to 4 hours. They ate about 300 extra calories a day, burned no more than usual, and gained weight. Total belly fat rose about 9%. The deep kind rose about 11%. And the honest limit again, these were adults between 19 and 39, not people in their 60s. One short night is not the problem. 14 of them in a row is. And if you are 68 and you wake at 3 every morning and lie there doing arithmetic about the day ahead, you are not being difficult and you are not broken. You are living inside that experiment, month after month, year after year. And then at 11 the next morning you want something sweet, and you decide that wanting it makes you weak. Tap 1 is the nights. You are not eating badly because you are weak. You are eating badly because you slept 5 hours and your body spent the whole next day buying energy on credit. Fix the night, and half of what you thought was a food problem quietly stops being a food problem at all. This is the lever people skip because it feels like it belongs to a different video. It does not. It is the first one for a reason, and the reason is that everything downstream of it gets easier or harder depending on how you slept. Journal of Clinical Investigation, 2009, 10 weeks of sweet drinks. Both groups gained similar weight, but visceral fat volume was significantly increased only in subjects consuming fructose. Read that one more time, because it is the cleanest experiment in this whole video. 2 groups. Same extra calories, a quarter of their daily energy for 10 weeks. One group drank it as glucose. The other drank it as fructose, the sugar in juice and soda. They gained the same weight. Only the fructose group built deep fat. Same pounds on the scale, different address inside the body. 2 glasses of orange juice with breakfast because it is fruit. A sweetened coffee at 10 because it is only 1. A sports drink after the walk because the label had an athlete on it. That is nothing on a plate and everything in a glass every day for years. None of that is gluttony. Every one of those 3 was recommended to you by somebody who meant well, and 2 of them were probably recommended by a label. Follow a glass of juice through you, down the throat, into the stomach, straight out through the intestine wall, into the blood heading for the liver. The liver stores what it can and turns the rest into fat right there on the spot. Some of that new fat is packed straight into the drawer sitting against it, and some of it stays inside the liver itself. No chewing, no waiting, no breaks anywhere along that route. The whole trip, from the throat to the fat around the gut, takes less time than it took you to drink the glass. Tap 2 is what you drink. Chewed sugar and swallowed sugar are not the same event. One arrives slowly with breaks wrapped in fiber. The other arrives all at once in a lane that ends at your liver. An apple and a glass of apple juice are not the same food, and they never were. Nobody eats 6 apples at breakfast. Everybody has been talked into drinking them, and the label on the bottle is telling you the truth about the fruit and nothing at all about the delivery. JAMA Internal Medicine 2020. 116 adults randomized 12 weeks. Time-restricted eating, in the absence of other interventions, is not more effective than eating throughout the day. I am telling you this one because you already fast, and because it is the study that made me stop bragging about my eating window. 12 weeks of eating only between noon and 8 in the evening. The difference against ordinary meals was under a kilo, and not big enough to call real. The window is a container. It is not a lever by itself. What you put inside it is. This is the part that made me angry. I had done the window for a year. I had told people at church it was working. My waist had not moved a single inch in 12 months. The window was the easiest thing in the world to obey, and the least likely thing to change my insides. It looks like discipline from the outside. No breakfast. black coffee until noon, and then the evening opens up, and there is bread on the table at 9, and cheese at 10, and the last plate lands 90 minutes before the lights go off. Nobody counts that one. It was not a meal, you tell yourself. It was standing up in the kitchen, with the television still on in the other room. Eat late, and two things overlap inside you. Your stomach is still pushing food into the intestine while you are trying to sleep. The blood coming out of that gut arrives at a liver that was supposed to be spending the night unloading, not receiving. So the drawer gets a delivery on the exact night it was scheduled for a pickup. Do that 5 nights a week for a year and the arithmetic writes itself. Tap 3 is not the length of your fast. It is the last 3 hours before you lie down. Those 3 hours decide whether your night is a shift where the body unloads or an overnight delivery. And notice how tap 3 and tap 1 hold hands. A late plate makes for a worse night. A worse night makes for a hungrier tomorrow. That loop is the reason people plateau for years while doing everything they were told to do. Obesity, 2012. 1,100 adults, 5 years of scans. For each 10 grams of soluble fiber, the rate of visceral fat accumulation decreased by 3.7%. And in that same group, the people who were moderately active had a 7.4% slower rate of deep fat gain than the least active ones. Fiber and movement. 2 ordinary things measured over 5 years with real scans, both hitting the drawer and barely touching the pocket. Nobody sells a subscription for beans and a brisk walk, which is roughly why you have not heard this framed as a protocol. A bowl of oats, a cup of black beans, a pear with the skin on, half an avocado. That is not a diet, and nobody at your table has to know you are doing it. That is 4 items on a shopping list, and it is most of the way to 10 grams. Tap 4 is how long you sit still, not whether you exercise, how long you stay motionless between the times you do. 3 hours in a chair is a signal. 6 hours in a chair is an instruction. And after 60, the chair wins more arguments than it used to, because standing up costs more than it did at 40. Obesity Reviews, 2012, 31 papers pooled, more than 300,000 adults, several ethnic groups. Waist-to-height ratio should therefore be considered as a screening tool, which brings us to the only measurement in this video. Waist compared to height beat weight and height for spotting risk, across 31 studies and more than 300,000 people. And the rule that came out of that whole line of research is short enough to remember forever. Keep your waist under half your height. Take a piece of string. Cut it to your height, from the floor to the top of your head. Fold it in half. Now wrap that folded string around your waist at the level of your navel, standing up, breathing out normally. Do not suck anything in. The string does not care. If the ends do not meet, you are above the line. If they meet with slack, you are under it. That is the test. No machine, no appointment, no waiting room. My string did not meet 2 years ago. 60 days later, it met with 2 fingers to spare. That is the 0 in the title, and it is the only 0 I am claiming. And that string is measuring something real. As the pad of fat between your intestines shrinks, the belly wall stops being pushed forward, and the whole trunk narrows from the inside out. The muscle did not change. The skin did not change. The bones certainly did not. The space between your organs did, and your waistband is simply reporting it. So now hold the 2 halves of this together. We have 4 taps that fill the drawer and 1 measurement that finally sees it. What we do not have anywhere in mainstream advice is the order. Nobody tells you which tap to close first, or what number to hold, or how long to wait before you check again. You get told to eat well, sleep well, and move more, which is true, useless, and impossible to fail at loudly enough for anyone to notice. Vague advice is not an accident. Vague advice scales. It fits on a poster, it never gets anybody in trouble, and it sells the next scale, the next belt, the next tee. The incentive is to keep it general. The casualty is the protocol. Here is the problem with understanding a mechanism and not having a protocol. Tomorrow morning, the same habit that is silently filling that drawer fills it again. Not because you lack discipline, but because there was nothing concrete standing there to replace it with. The autophagy activation blueprint is that replacement, the protocol half rather than the mechanism half, a 14-day calendar day by day, built for bodies over 55 that you open and follow with no improvising. First link in the description and first pinned comment. One payment, lifetime access. Before I hand you the deep drawer method, something personal. 2 years ago, my wife, Paula, watched me eat a bowl of cereal standing at the kitchen counter at 10 at night, said one sentence, and went to bed. You eat like a man who is still working nights. I had retired 11 months earlier. That was the whole diagnosis, delivered in a doorway. My body was still running the schedule of a job I no longer had. Late plates, 5-hour nights, juice, because it seemed harmless next to dessert, and a daily walk I was quietly using as permission for all three. That is the part I am least proud of. The walk was real, the effort was real, and I was spending it every evening before I ever went to bed. Paula saw it in 11 seconds. It took me 11 months. So here it is, in full, in the order I ran it. 5 levers, 60 days, and 1 piece of string. Do them in this order because each one makes the next one easier, and doing them out of order is how I wasted my first year. You do not need all 5 on day 1. You need the first one on day 1. Lever number 1, the sleep floor. 7 hours in bed, and the same lights out time 7 nights a week. Not an average across the week, because an average lets Friday steal from Tuesday. A floor, under every single night, including the ones after a day that went badly. 7 hours in bed, not 7 hours asleep, because you cannot command sleep and you can command a bedtime. The lab study is the reason this is lever 1 and not lever 4. 14 short nights raise deep fat while those people were eating freely and moving normally. If you wake at 3, keep your wake-up time fixed anyway. A fixed wake-up time is what drags the bedtime back into place, and after 65, it is usually the only handle that still works. Same alarm 7 days a week, including Sunday. Phone charging in the other room. Bedroom cool and dark. And if you are awake at 3, you get out of bed, sit in a chair in the dark for 20 minutes, and go back. You do not check the clock and you do not check the phone. 20 minutes in a chair beats 2 hours arguing with the ceiling, and it protects tomorrow. Lever number 2, the liquid line. Nothing with sugar in it goes into a glass. Not juice, not the sweetened coffee, not the sports drink somebody left in your fridge. Water, coffee, tea, milk if you want it. That is the whole line, and it is the only lever here you can obey perfectly on day 1. This is the fastest one, and the one with the cleanest evidence behind it, because that 10-week study built deep fat with a drink while the scale moved the same in both groups. If you drink 2 glasses of juice a day, this single change is worth more to your waist than any exercise you are realistically willing to do at 68. And unlike a diet, you know within 1 day whether you did it. Day 1, the juice comes out of the fridge and does not go back in. Coffee gets nothing added to it. If you need something with a taste, cold water with a squeeze of lemon. Yes, that is unglamorous. That is exactly the point, and it is most of why it works. Lever number 3, the 10-gram floor. 10 grams of soluble fiber a day, every day. That is the kind of fiber that turns thick in water instead of passing straight through. Oats, beans, apples and pears with the skin on. Avocado, barley, chia. 10 grams is the number because that is the amount tied to the slower deep fat gain in the 5-year scan study. And this is the lever that quietly fixes the other ones, because fiber slows the arrival of everything you eat with it, and a slower arrival is exactly the opposite of what a glass of juice does. Go up gradually over 2 weeks, or your gut will make its opinion known. Oats at breakfast. A cup of beans at lunch, in soup, or on the plate, it does not matter which. A pear in the afternoon with the skin on. Half an avocado at dinner. 4 items. The same 4 items every single day if that is easier, and for me it was. Lever number 4, the daily 45. 45 minutes of brisk walking 6 days a week at a pace where you could talk but could not sing. Plus standing up every hour you are awake, even if it is only for 2 minutes and a glass of water. This is the lever that reaches the drawer directly. Working leg muscles pull sugar out of the blood, the heart moves that blood through the gut faster, and the fat between those loops of intestine starts sending its stores out to be burned. Standing up every hour keeps those same muscles from going quiet for 6 hours at a stretch, which is when the whole system slows down. Your legs hold the largest muscles you own. Nothing else in your body can pull that much sugar out of the blood that quickly, and nothing else sits idle for so many hours a day. 45 minutes, 6 days a week. If your knees say no, that is a stationary bike or a pool, and it counts exactly the same. And every hour, on the hour, you stand up and walk to the other end of the house and back. That is the entire exercise plan. There is no gym in it, and there is nothing in it you have to be shown how to do. Lever number 5, the 3-hour close. The last plate lands 3 hours before the lights go out, not a shorter eating window. A closed evening. The window was never the lever. The last 3 hours were, and they were the 3 hours nobody was counting. And I want to be straight with you about this one, because the 12-week trial found that squeezing your eating into 8 hours by itself did almost nothing. That is why lever 5 is written as a closing time and not as a fasting window. It works here for a mechanical reason. It removes the evening plate that was feeding the drawer, and it protects lever 1, which is the lever everything else leans on. Dinner at 6:30. Kitchen light off at 7. If you are hungry at 9, that is information, not an emergency, and it almost always means lunch was too small. So make lunch bigger tomorrow instead of making the evening longer. That is the whole adjustment, and after about 9 days, the hunger at 9 stops showing up on its own. That is the deep drawer method. 5 levers, 1 drawer, 1 piece of string. Week 1, only the sleep floor and the liquid line. Week 2, add the 10-gram floor. Week 3, add the daily 45. Week 4, close the evening. Then hold all 5 for the rest of the 60 days and do not measure anything in between. Measure on day 1. Measure on day 60. Nothing in between, because a waist moves 1/4 of an inch at a time, and checking on Tuesday will only make you quit on Wednesday. 2 measurements, 60 days apart. That is the entire scoreboard, and it is the only scoreboard that can see the drawer. By day 60, if the lever's held, the pad of fat between your intestines is thinner, the liver is taking a smaller dose from that gut blood, and your belly wall is no longer being pushed forward from behind. That is what a narrower waist actually is on the inside, not a smaller pocket, an emptier drawer and a liver that finally gets a normal delivery from the gut instead of a double one. None of this is a diagnosis, and none of it replaces your doctor. If you take medication for blood pressure or blood sugar, changing your meals, your sleep, and your walking will change how that medication behaves, so tell your doctor before you start, not after. If you are pregnant or living with any diagnosed condition, this is a conversation with a medical professional, not a video. Now go cut the string tonight. Your height, folded in half, wrapped around your navel. Then comment your 2 numbers below, your waist and half your height, and come back and comment them again on day 60. I read every comment, and the day 60 ones are the reason I keep making these videos at all. If this is the kind of thing you want more of, subscribe. Mechanisms, not motivation. 1 video a week, no shouting. And the next video goes deeper into the one thing that surprised me most after day 60. What adding 2 short strength sessions a week does to deep fat in people over 65. And one last thing, because it is the thing I wish somebody had said to me 2 years ago. You were never lazy. You walked, you tried, you did what you were told, and you were measuring the one number that cannot see the fat that matters. You were not failing. You were aiming at the wrong target. Move the target, and the body you already have does the rest.